And thank you so much for staying with us. Now, this is the entertainment segment of the show, Entertainment Extra. Today we have two guests that will be of interest for you, or rather to you. Our first guest is Nigerian-born filmmaker Gbolahan Makjob Ireke, Rise of the Maroons, which has now premiered in cinemas in Nigeria after premiering at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival. The new Yoruba movie premiered at the Cannes Film Festival as the first Nigerian local language movie to achieve such a feat. The movie has now had its worldwide release in over 100 cinemas combined across the UK, Nigeria, Ghana, and Austria. Another first for any Nigerian movie. Ireke, Rise of the Maroons, tells the story of the slave rebellion of the 18th century in the Caribbean plantations, which led to the creation of the Maroons and how their resistance led to a truce and ultimately the end of slavery in the region. Well, joining us today to talk about this movie is the producer and director, Gbolahan Peter Makjob. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
Now, this is your first movie production. What got through the process of achieving this feat? What spoke to you about the story? Why did you have to choose this story in making a movie?
Okay, so thanks for having me. So I'm a journalist by profession, and I make documentaries, and I run into the story of the Maroons, the descendants of the Maroons living in Jamaica, pouring libation, greeting each other, Boruboye, speaking Yoruba, saying Baba, etc., etc. And I was just intrigued that a group of Jamaicans were still keeping their African ancestry. So that attracted me very quickly. But upon investigating closer, I found out about their story and how they had rebelled against the British slavers and how they had had some success to the point that Britain had to come to a truce. So that called me 1,000%. And initially, I was going to try to make a documentary about it. And then I just decided making a movie might have more impact because the conversation is going to get started and then people will get to know about that part of our ancestry that we usually don't share. And that's what attracted me to this story.
Well, this movie is talking about slave trade in Nigeria, telling the story in a manner of Nigerians. Now, tell us or walk us through how you decided to conceptualize the ideas, having the cast coming together to tell this great movie.
So, initially when the whole thing came upon me, there was a lot of complexities because at the end of the day, there was no Nigeria or Ghana or anything at the time. It was the bite of Benin, bite of Biafra. It was that type of arrangement. And it was a compilation of Yoruba, Igbos, Ghanaians, that part of the Sahel. So I just thought, Sub-Saharan Africa. So I just thought to myself, for every slave movie that I've watched, whether it's Roots, whether it's 12 Years a Slave, whether it's Django, it's been told from the global north, i.e. the US, Hollywood. There's none that has been done from Nollywood. Looking at how big this film industry is, the volumes of film that we churn out every day, I was thinking to myself, the same way Afrobeats has gone mainstream, it's about time for Nollywood to do that. But if we continue to make nuanced storytelling, it won't appeal to a global audience. It will just be our diaspora audience. So the global agenda was the first thing on my mind. So I thought to myself, I need a global story, something that somebody from Ipswich or Newark, or Tobago could be interested in. So it was very easy to make a decision regarding slave story, but I didn't want to tell the same old story where they beat us up and, all of that. I realized that part of us fighting back using African spirituality, because I'm a practitioner of African religion. So it was very important for me to put that out there, that when the slaves decided to fight back, they were inspired by African spirituality. And that's one of the reasons why they had their success. So in my history of watching TV, watching films, African spirituality has always been, demonized and always been at the receiving end and, all of that. And I thought, I'm going to switch this on its head. We need a moment where African spirituality is pious, is good, and it has been used as a force for good. And that's what led to the storytelling.
Saying that this movie is about history, is a period drama. I want to ask, I want to ask, how did you ensure that you made sure that the story was authentic in the costumes, the culture, the history, the story? How did you ensure that, for example, Toby Bakri was wearing what he was supposed to be wearing at that time?
That's not too difficult. I mean, just with some Google search, an image, you can already have an idea what people were wearing. We wanted to do 18th century because, you can only do so much within a low budget movie for a debutant. So we had a lot of challenges in terms of being able to get the right location. Ideally, we should have shot this in Jamaica, but we shot it in Abeokuta in a place called Papalanto because that's the only place we could find fields of sugarcane. And in terms of finding a colonial building, it was tough. We're going to use places in the Butte Meta, but the loud noise, the power lines, all those things were just too difficult to shoot a movie in a place like that. And eventually, we were lucky that we found a building in Abeokuta that was a colonial building still standing. And so to answer your question, it wasn't too difficult, but at the same time, it was quite tricky because we only had so much resources. But in terms of authenticity, this story is a fiction. It's a fiction inspired by true accounts. So there's bits of it that mirrored Benin punitive expedition. There's bits of it that mirrored transatlantic slavery. And there's bits of it that mirrored the Maroon rebellion, which wasn't just one, there was many rebellions. And of course, the slave trade. I wanted to put it out there that we were complicit. It's not like they came in and kidnapped us totally. Some of our leaders were participating in the buying and selling. So before we call people out, we also have to look at ourselves and have serious conversation. So it's a fiction, but everything was inspired by true accounts.
Okay, so what was the cost implication of this movie, if you would like to reveal that to us?
Yes, well, sadly, NDA disclosures and all of that, I couldn't. But let me say this much. Nollywood is not your mate. Yes, Nollywood is an incredible industry, and long may it continue. For somebody who was on the outside, coming into Nollywood, looking at the amount of jobs it provides, seeing young people incredibly excited to be at work, because it doesn't feel like work to them. They feel like they're having fun, but call time is 7 o'clock. These people are dressed up by 7. They're already dressed, suited and booted, looking nice, ready to go. And sometimes we're there till midnight, not a single complaint. So, of course, it costs a lot of money to make this movie into hundreds of millions. So it was quite tough. It was very expensive. Running costs of accommodating people, feeding them 3 times a day. Because of the searing heat as well, you had to buy tents. You had to hire tents and chairs, water, energy drink, etc., etc. So it is expensive.
So
but,
at what point did you get the financial support to be able to turn out such great movie like this? Talking about Ireke.
Well, again, thank God this is a Nigeria media organization. We have this saying: "There's person that will bless you will not stress you."
Absolutely.
I met a young man who is a farmer, and we were talking about the creative sector, and he said, "Oh, I'm a big fan of the industry." And I said, "I'm trying to get into filmmaking." He said, "Oh, come up with some ideas." And I said, "I have this idea." So that sounds like a brilliant idea. How much do you think it will take you? And I mentioned it in the hundreds of millions. He just said, and that's how I started that. But at some point, we had some challenges, so we had to go find investors. But because I had done the work up to like 80%, so whenever they watch the clips, they'll be like, "Oh, this is interesting." And then I say, "I need a bit more to get over the line," and that's how I was able to complete it.
So what's the lesson here for Nigerians? Talking about Ireke, what can we now draw as a big lesson concerning leadership in the country?
I think, for me, the message I want to put out there, the creative sector is no longer a side attraction. it's a legitimate business venture. So I say the government needs to invest heavily in the creative sector because it preoccupies these young people. These very same people that we are concerned about, that we don't want them to become gangs and cults or go into prostitution, etc. This industry attracts them like magnet. Agriculture and the creative sector are the biggest employers. The creative sector is the one that they really like to be involved in. So money has to be provided out there. For me, if I didn't have my network, raising money was a big problem. And I believe that there's a lot of talent out there. So for me, that's the lesson that even I have learned from this industry. Because now that we've finished, we're in cinemas worldwide. There's interest in New York, in Trinidad and Tobago. We're expecting the streaming platform to start coming in. So, we're hoping to make some money off it. But the guys that we hired, we pay them decently. I mean, if somebody paid me that kind of money, I'll be happy. Let's put it that way. So that's the lesson there for me.
Yes. I really would like to ask, because I know that the movie came out yesterday in cinemas. Why did you choose to take the movie to the cinemas rather than streaming platforms like Netflix and Prime?
Well, we are going to go there eventually, but there's a pattern where you really have to do the rounds first in theaters, because their doors are not exactly just flung open anymore as they used to be. So you have to prove yourself. And now that Ireke is already doing the rounds, I mean, we had the sold out two sold out theaters in Greenwich, in London. And our movie is showing in multiple locations. First of its kind, by the way. We're showing in cinemas that Nigerian movies have never, ever been shown at. We're in places like Thorok, like white areas. And because the movie is no longer just an African film, it's an international film made in Nigeria, fully recorded in Abeokuta, shot in Abeokuta, post-production in Abeokuta, the whole lot.
I love the fact that you believe so much in Nigeria. With everything done in Nigeria, what is the next line of action after Ireke? What next should we expect?
You let me put it this way. Get ready. We want to tell stories like never been told before. So we're looking for a sequel for Ireke, possibly a series, but there's more from where that came from. I made a documentary about black acts. So these are the kind of content that I make. And now that I'm into the film industry, watch out.
Now, this movie is the first of its kind in a way, because many times you see foreigners, Hollywood, talking about history of Nigeria, of Africa, of slave trade and whatnot. Do you think that you have started a kind of revolution that now we are going to tell our own stories? I mean, we have been telling our own stories, but I'm talking about stories about slavery.
Well, I'm going to put this out there. Our stories, exactly the way you said it. Incredible things happen here. But sometimes when you watch films, even the big acclaimed ones, you can already see there's an adaptation of a foreign movie. It's something that you've watched before. When you see it, you can almost predict it. So you remember, I've seen that movie before. This is just like a Nigerian version of it, which is fine. But if you look around us in the news, I mean, I've been watching your news all morning since I've been locked down. Incredible things are happening around us. Things have happened in our past. Look at Abacha. We had a man like that as our president. Look at the circumstances that took him out. I've been expecting to watch that in a movie forever, right? But if we're not careful, somebody from Hollywood is going to try and make a story about some Nigerian dictator, etc. And we have amazing filmmakers here. Just as an example, we need to tell our stories, and not just about slavery or anything. Literally everything happening around us. Boko Haram has been happening all this while. We've been having all these problems. These are the stories we need to make. I'm thinking.
Absolutely, it's a fine place to live it. You made mention that the person that will bless you will not stress you.
That's my favorite quote for today.
It's a favorite quote from you this morning, filmmaker Peter McJob. Many thanks
for
you so much. Joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Now